This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon. Time being 4:45 p.m. I'd like to call the August 13th, 2020 meeting of the Tilton Select Board to order. Before we get started, if you're participating by phone or the GoToMeeting platform, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, background noise will interfere with the meeting. The Select Board is meeting at Town Hall and providing access via GoToMeeting and conference calls to enable the public to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting. Additionally, there's an opportunity for the public to attend the meeting in person. However, in order to maintain social distancing, only 8 spaces are available and attendance is on a first-come, first-served basis. Once the maximum limit has been reached, anybody wishing to participate in the meeting must do so remotely. If anyone has a problem with remote access to the meeting, please email web@tiltonnh.org, which will be monitored during the meeting. Would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Selectman Scanlon will be joining us shortly. The town administrator will not be joining us this evening. I'd like to bring the minutes of August 8th to the floor for discussion. Has everybody had the opportunity to read it? August 6th. I've got August 8th on my. If it's August 6th, apparently it's August 6th. We have a discrepancy in the papers. Of August 6th to the floor for discussion. Has everybody had a chance to read that? And if so, do you have any corrections? Okay, hearing none. I make a motion to accept the minutes of August 6th as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Selectman Fogg. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. I'm a couple minutes early, but we'll leave it open. We're having a public hearing tonight to accept a furniture donation for the police department. For RSA 31:95-B, the selectmen are required to hold a public hearing when accepting any donation over $10,000. Per the RSA, this notice was published in the newspaper at least 7 days before the hearing. Thanks to Chief Cormier's efforts, the town will receive a furniture donation valued at $24,525 to help furnish our new police department. Thank you ever so much to you, Chief. Certainly. And is there anybody that wants to speak at the public hearing? Okay, then we'll leave it open at least until Selectman Scanlon gets here and we can vote to accept the donation. Okay, jumping right ahead here. Kevin Duval, you step up and be seated. Okay, there was some questions about the paving and the R&D invoice.
Okay.
Peter, you had questions on this, I believe?
I believe the invoice we're asked to approve is like 4,000 over the bid.
Yes,
Could we get an explanation, please?
sure. There was a couple of add-ons that presented themselves as the project was being completed. There was, R&D had asked me about 660 feet of sidewalk along Cedar Street, if it was okay, if I wanted them to overlay the sidewalk while they were there. And I said, yes. There was 660 feet of sidewalk, and I believe it was $1,600 to get that resurfaced with pavement. That was $2.42 per linear foot. I can't do that in-house cheaper, so it made sense for me to go ahead and give them authorization to do that. There was a shim I had asked them to do on Highland Ave. I don't know if you remember, but there was a depression in the base on Highland Ave. I had it dig safed, confirmed that there was no gas, sewer, or water underneath the depression that would warrant excavation. We discovered that it was a failed drainage pipe, storm drain pipe, that was leaching water into the surrounding area, and the trash truck backing up that road on a weekly basis made a depression. So instead of excavating that area and disrupting the base, I asked for them to do a shim. It's like 20 feet, 20 by 10 feet, 10 feet by 20 feet shim, and then do their top coat on top of that. Then there was 2 catch basins that I had asked them to tie into the pavement prior to the project. Prior to them coming in, and we were going to do it with gravel or riprap, the 5x7 stone. It made more sense to tie it in with the pavement, just to keep water going where it was supposed to go without any future issues. Because the stone in the ditch lines, we have to maintain it. The pavement just takes the water away. So it made sense to have them tie in the 2 catch basins. There was one was at the bottom of Linden Ave and one was at the bottom of Highland Ave. Then 2 more things that were additional. I had them do, I call them water deflection berms at the edge of 4 driveways. Because of the steepness of the road, I didn't want the water to pick up momentum and then go right into somebody's garage or right into somebody's dooryard. So I had them do a small berm at the edge of the driveway. It wouldn't interfere with plowing or snow removal to keep the water in the road, at least past the driveway, to where I could direct it into a ditch line, continue it down to the catch basin. Lastly, it was discovered the day before when I had asked the water department to do their risers for their shutoffs and valves. One of the risers was laying over. It was broke off, and nobody could tell me when it happened or what the issue was. All that I know is that it had to be fixed that day. So we excavated a 3-foot square area of the base from around that riser, and I asked R&D to come in and redo the base by hand so that they could continue with the top coat. So those are the additional costs. I believe most of it was handwork for a certain amount of, I don't recall the tonnage for handwork in the additionals with the sidewalk. So that's where it came.
Okay. You have other questions?
Do we know the tonnage laid by each of the streets so we could check to see if the yield is where it should be?
I did collect all of the tonnage slips, and I know from the progression of the project that I can itemize out which ones were for what road.
If you could do that in the next week, it's no big rush. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's it, Joe.
Does anybody else have questions? Eric?
Just at the corner of Cedar and High, there's a sidewalk that was ripped up but never
Yes.
repaved.
It wasn't repaved by us because that wasn't our responsibility. The gas company was in there doing some work on their lines. Right now, I'm in communication with them, trying to get them to take care of their stuff.
I have one question about the project itself, not necessarily the amount of pavement, the amount of money that we're spending on R&D. When you take a right from Winter Street onto Cedar Street on the right-hand side, and I have no idea if it's water company, sewer company, or the highway, but it almost looks like it's an unfinished product because there's a lot of gravel stone, if you would. So your crew came along and did ledge pack along the side, okay? And beyond that ledge pack in the grass is a lot of single stone, if you would. And I think as a homeowner driving along two homes, seeing that, I don't know who would pick that up. I know water company did work there, and I know we did work there, and I don't know if sewer did work there or not, but it just seems like it's unfinished because it just looks, everything else is nice and tidy, but then you have this row of gravel that we know was from the project.
When we were doing the shoulder work, the guys were focused on shouldering up the asphalt edge. We will be going back to clean up the rest.
Okay.
Just had to item prioritize to get some other things done. We will be returning to take care of that.
Okay, my only observation is that I would love to hear about this as it's happening instead after the fact. All perfectly reasonable things, certainly, but I like to know as we
To
go.
report on,
Just
so I can add it into my weekly reports.
That would be outstanding.
Like, this is what's happening, kind of a thing.
Yes, yeah, that would make perfect sense to me.
Yeah, Joseph.
Okay,
Okay.
based on that, I'd like to make a motion to release the check for R&D paving.
Constantino second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, there's no nays, so we're going to do that, and we're going to move along.
Mr. Chair, can I just remind the board that in the signature app, there's the request, to request the money from the trustees. So the board, they sign that. Well,
I didn't sign it because I was waiting till after the meeting, but yeah,
thank you.
certainly.
Reminder.
Okay, I'll be seeing you in a few minutes. Is Sergeant Pinault here?
Tim, what was that called under that?
Is,
Selectmen capital,
yeah, that,
we already signed it, Pat.
it's 2020-06. Getting texts as you guys are saying. Selectmen's capital request trustees. Pat, you didn't sign it already.
All right, thanks.
This says that
Peter and John.
we're giving this to him on the 15th
Yeah.
because that's when it becomes effective, right? Yeah, kind of assumed, but, the minutes and stuff, the 8 to 6, I just wanted to make sure that
don't make too much noise. Hey, no scissors.
I need candy here, buddy. I have a large sack in the refrigerator too, so it can't melt. So, okay. Sergeant Pinault isn't here. Okay. Well, good, because the next thing is a non-public and I
Did
just
the
assumed.
ticketing that Toyota that's parked there?
I would pay the ticket in a heartbeat. Although I haven't technically been here 30 minutes and that's what the sign says. Welcome. Come on in and step right up.
Snowmobile.
Sergeant Pinault, congratulations. You're here tonight in recognition of, as of August 15th, you've been with the Tilton Police Department for 15 years. Myself, only speaking for me, but I think we all have the same mind. Thank you very much for your service and your dedication to the town and to its residents. Thank you. I kind of wish it was a bigger thing for everybody, but in these days and times, right? Sergeant, thank you ever so much. Chief, did he know why he was here? Okay. He kind of looked like maybe he didn't. Surprise. Okay. The time being 5:05 PM. I'd like to make a motion to move into non-public session per RSA 91-A semicolon 3, paragraph 2A. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against them. We expect to be back into public session at approximately 6:30 PM. Do I have a second?
Constantino, second.
You have a motion and a
I have
second?
a question. We have a public hearing that's open.
Yes, we do.
We keep it open through the private. Okay,
At least until John gets
first
here.
time. I'm
No,
asking that
Yeah,
question.
yeah, we're gonna keep it. What's the standard? The standard's an hour, right? Yeah. We can end at any time.
Just making sure.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Constantino.
Constantino, yes.
Fog, yes.
Byra, yes.
And hopefully I go there. But be that as it may, Jessamine, yes as well. We
This conference will now be recorded.
Hold on, it's gonna go trigger.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, the time being 6:59. Welcome back to the regular meeting. I make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session of August 13th, 2020, because the reasons justifying the need for the non-public session still remain. Is there a
Constantino,
second? Constantino, second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Constantino.
Constantino, yes.
Fog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Tim Pearson, you're up.
Okay. Thanks. So you have before you a memo from me, and no decisions are needed on anything tonight. So I just wanted to kind of give you an update as to where we were. Our expenses are on track for the year as the end of July. So, by and large, our revenues are still short by about 10%. And one of the things that we've seen, if you were to look at our motor vehicle, they're very strong in July, but not strong enough to counteract other areas, and just nothing in particular, just kind of across the board. So,
Tim,
yes,
how's the motor vehicles on the year compared to previous? Are we getting closer to where we should be?
we are, yeah, yep. So that is a good thing, and hopefully it'll keep up. But in general, the last 3-year average for July for revenues has been 174,000. We came in at 120,000, almost 121,000. So we're running, in July, we ran about 69, 70% of our 3-year average revenues for the month. So it could be, there's a number of things that can be at play. Unfortunately, our expenses were also higher by a factor of another 20% over what the average was. And that was primarily due to some of the one-time expenses, like the first responders stipends that we paid out in July, and other expenses that we had. So in general, I feel like we're in as good a place as we could be at this point. And just keeping a really close eye on things. So that's where we are with that. The budget development, the budget committee is sending out their letters for outside agencies, and I have notified the department heads and asked them to work on the budget in this way. And I want to get some input from the board if you'd like to see some specific things. But essentially, I've asked them to prepare a regular 2021 budget as if there were no pandemic. In other words, what would you need to run your department under normal circumstances? With the caveat that that you need to plan to discuss and have identified expenses if the pandemic lasts all the way through 2021, and if we hit some sort of economic crisis in town that is unexpected, that how would you pare back your department expenditures? So in other words, we will have hopefully a normal what are the requirements to run the department, but then we'll be prepared on either side of that, with some information from each department, hopefully. So so I'm kind of curious, as I'm sure you're aware, we are going to have higher expenditures in 2021 because we'll have the building coming online and the debt for that building, which one of the reasons for putting it out to the January offering was that we only have to pay interest in 2021 and not so it sort of helps us ramp into it. And in 2022, we'll have full interest and principal payments. So it makes it a little easier bite in 2021, but it's still going to be considerable. So I'm just curious if anyone has any thoughts or if there's something that the board really wishes to see in terms of what the departmental budgets should look like. I don't think anyone has any ideas about being excessive in terms of personnel or other things. Probably the biggest area of change is going to be the PD and accounting for the operating expenses of the new building, and which are going to be considerably more than what we're spending now. So that's going to be difficult to pin down. because we don't know exactly what the utilities are going to be for it. There's a lot of unknowns. And until we're in there and have an experience, we're just going to have to do our best to estimate, what those costs are. You can certainly do it in a number of ways, either by square footage and then factor in the energy efficiency of the building, which is somewhat how we look at some of these numbers in the cycle leading up to town meeting. But anyway, if anyone has any specific ideas or parameters, particularly as it relates to if the board has a setting you want to keep to on incentives or merit, merits to be budgeted in 2021. The board wish to stay with 2.5% for the time being.
We'll let you know.
Okay, so that's the kind of thing I would like to know, or if there are other things that you're thinking that, we really got to be, we're hoping to develop and revisit the budget for recycling and collection, trash collection. But there's a lot of, we can come up with the numbers a lot easier than probably the town can come up with what they want to do.
My question is about the length of the Pinault contract. When it becomes time, we have to either renegotiate or buy a truck. As I don't want to have to renegotiate at this point without knowing, maybe we can get ourselves a truck and do it cheap.
Well, based on the data we had before, it was cheaper. The risk factor was our internal ability to take that on. And that was under a different public works director, it was at a different time. And it was pretty clear that the makeup of the department wouldn't have supported that.
Not at that time, but
now it's a different story.
now it's a different story. We've got a new guy coming on, and maybe we need one more, but it's still got to be cheaper than paying Pinault's driver, Pinault's insurance, and Pinault's profit.
Yep. The one bright spot that we have in Pinault's contract is that we're paying in the disposal of recycling, we're paying $50 a ton. So
It'll be gone.
what's that?
That will disappear quick.
Well, yeah, that's not gonna, Tony told me last year, he said that he hasn't been writing those in, since we signed basically. And that they're taking a bath every time they gotta deliver our recyclables because it's costing them more. But keep in mind, sometimes people price things in such a way that it looks very advantageous here and they make up the profit elsewhere. So, and keep in mind, we are running quite a few routes. It is our largest contract, as I know you know. So in any event, that's what we're starting to work on. I've been working on all the personnel related costs and all those things, and really trying to separate out for the budget committee the discretionary items and hopefully make it a streamlined process for them so that they're not spending their time looking at necessarily, collective bargaining agreement or personnel unless they want to get into that. But when you really pare down what the budget is that's really malleable, if everything else were to be equal, it's not as much as one would think. Because about 65% of that is tied up personal related costs.
John, you have a question?
We could start to ask some questions.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
In town hall administration, we go down to the line down near the bottom, 99,910.
Legal. Yep.
Yeah. We're real high on that now. We're without, privacy or whatever. Where's it going?
Well,
If you can't answer that, we'd have to do it.
well, I think you may recall some of the extraordinary expenses we had there. We did move some money into that line to account for for some of that legal service work that was done. But we probably, and this is one of the ones I was looking at that Jeannie and I had discussed, whether we would make a recommendation to move some more money into that. Originally, we had taken, I believe it was about $8,300 out of the police budget. That was early on in the year. Let's say that was around the March, April timeframe. But in any case, yeah, that is what it is. We've had a lot of legal expenses this year.
Can that be broken down better per department?
Well, there is a legal line in the police department.
Yeah.
But I would say the majority of that is pertaining to the selectmen's activities. And I could give you a breakdown if you want. I can send out a breakdown to the board.
Yeah, I was curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's getting right up there, and that's one of those tough ones to call, because we're already over on if we go to page 4, 99, 910, which is also down near the bottom. Yeah, have a look at that one.
Yeah.
It's we're
That's
half
way over.
again
Right.
over.
And that was, that's correct. And
Show us buddies. Get tough, buddy.
the activities of it, it adds up quickly. Wish it were different, but I can send out something if you'd like to see. And I think actually Jeannie may keep something for you by attorney and by item. So I'm sure we can get that to you.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. It's always the toughest one to budget for, so.
It is. We do have, though, where if anything is related to abatement expenses, things of that sort, we can increase our overlay at the end of the year. We have a very low overlay for the size equalized value that we have. So that's generally to help with abatement expense. But I would say what we have going on right now in terms of legal activities, probably from here through the end of the year, would just be that sort of property type issues for the most part. So it may well, even though it looks a little ominous right now, where we are in the year, if you were to look at the amount of activity that has taken place, I think you might say that, well, maybe there's not that much that's going to happen between now and the end of the year, hopefully. So it just remains to be seen.
And you're going to start doing the budgeting for next year. Based on that, our reevaluation as it pertains to the school district is going to hit us this year. So our school district tax is going to go up probably 25%.
No, we actually have one more year for the equalized value. So it's
One more year?
One more year before that kicks in. But we should also see, they have a new business administrator, and I haven't seen the ending fund balance right now, but there will be money going back to the towns. And being on the budget committee, I felt like it was somewhere in the $400,000 range that would be redistributed based on our contributions. But it may even be in excess of that, maybe 500,000. So there's nothing published as yet.
Yeah.
But we're fairly certain it's going to be well over 300. It's just how much over.
Thanks for being on that, Tim.
Yeah. The other thing is that also with fire, we saw a little bit of reduction with fire, and maybe by the end of the year, when it comes time
Next year, the reevaluation for that one. So
that, yeah, and
So
that'll
should
probably
keep-
have
us
a,
flat.
well, I'm afraid fire might have more of an impact on us, but see, I don't know where Northfield's EV is right now. I don't know that's value. But in any event, does anyone else have any questions on the?
I do have one. And it seems like every year we go through TC office supplies, and they seem to creep up at the end around this time to a little over 3/4. They're up at 82% right now. Are we budgeting them correctly? I mean, we find them always at this point, this time of the year, at this point, and then they go over.
Right.
Perhaps maybe we should take a double, I don't know, what's driving that.
So if you were to look historically, the deed research amount, at one point in time, it was almost $8,000 for the year. And that's come way down. And that's in credit to our town clerk tax collector that found this company that does it very reasonably. So as that's come down, there have been other things that have been on the rise. And I can tell you that we're probably going to exceed not only office supplies, but postage in the town clerk tax collector's area. And keep in mind that some of this is that they've had to do a lot more by mail than they had before. And I believe that's probably also what's driving some of the office supplies.
I'm not doubting it, but I'm just saying that this happens every single year. There's a different issue with it, whether it be an extra election or something that's driving this with postage, office supplies or something. Perhaps maybe we should take a different look at it for budgeting and maybe put that up just a hair so that we don't see it at this time of year, 82, and then go over it. Because historically, we've gone over this, I think, in the last 3 years.
I'd have to look to see, but I do know that the department head really.
Right,
does
no
not
fault
like-
to her.
Oh, yeah, she does not like to increase any of these
Right,
lines.
exactly. But I still think that, as time goes on, I mean, look at how many elections we've had, plus the mailings because of COVID. We've had to mail out everything.
Right.
And look at how many absentee ballots now we're going to be mailing.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
You just hit my question.
right, it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
So,
There's a potential for reimbursement there, is there not?
Well, yeah, I was going to get to that. So we are going to be able to recoup the entire $86,000 that was allocated for the town of Tilton. The question is,
if we spend more.
well, we can't recoup any more than the 86,000 in total. There's the reporting on this can be very cumbersome to get the reimbursement. And I don't know if you recall, all the paperwork that you had to sign, when we did our first one, which was about $5,400. So they've had different times when you could submit, and an awful lot of places have just sort of been piling up, waiting to do one big one. It cuts down a little bit on the administrative time. But since then, the governor signed an executive order that allows, and one of the reasons for this was because of the administrative overhead of having to collect everything that you're going to get reimbursed on. It doesn't sound hard, but in practice, it's very time consuming. And so what they said was you can take any of your payroll expenses for first responders and use those in their entirety to make up the difference to your total amount. And Eugenia and I think that was primarily because there were so many things that you sort of had to follow, and all these little bits and pieces to get the $23 here and the $35.42 there, that not enough towns were using up their full allotment. And so by doing that, it really opens it up wide, and it makes the submittal process very easy. But one of the things that I had planned to talk to the board about tonight was there are other things that we can cover. And one of which was for the board, and it was pertaining to technology, getting the board new Chromebooks. These are probably about 6 years old now. I bought them for $100 a piece on a December special. They got to be at least 6 years.
I don't
They're
even
coming
use
up
mine
on
anymore.
6, because it was when I came on,
6, yeah.
they came
Yeah.
out.
So, so they, I mean, this would be covered. All kinds of technology things would be covered under certain circumstances, but because you're doing work from home, that's town work, that can be covered for the technology. So this is something I wouldn't, I would ordinarily have budgeted for in a given year and then, made the case for. So this is one of the things that maybe you say you don't use yours, but it's accessible to you. It's something that
Only because it's slow and difficult to use. If it was fast and easy to use, I would be on it.
So maybe that's the answer. So I'd be looking at about a $300 price point per each. So we're talking about $1,500 of that 86,000. So I hadn't planned to really, ask for anything on that tonight, but in a subsequent meeting, maybe think about it, see what you think, about doing some of that.
So that's out of the 86,000, it's allowed to tell.
That's correct.
While, it'd be nice to get the PCs and stuff like that, Chromebooks. I want to make sure that we're getting all that safety stuff first, or any safety type alterations that would need to be done to the building. Should we be looking at putting a glass thing in front of the clerks and around that part, an actual real glass wall with that, like a teller type thing? Should we be doing that?
And
I wouldn't want to shortchange on.
Yeah, those are
things.
absolutely valid. And the only things that we would have to move on things like that very soon. So that would have to be something that Jeannie would really have to prioritize. The final submission for everything is October 15th, I believe. So not only would something have to be designed, it would have to be done and paid for prior to October 15th.
Were the wages for the first responders also in that?
No, that's different.
Separate, okay.
That was the 41,000 was a separate.
That makes sense.
But so in any event, be thinking about that. This would save from having to budget for the board at some point, and you should have newer equipment. Repurpose these, I'm sure. But any other questions on the budget anyone have? Our existing July. So one of the things I did just want to introduce to you, and I had briefly discussed it a few weeks ago, and that was regarding the operating costs at the PD. And I am working on a breakdown for you. I need to spend a little time with Jeannie on a couple of the items, but I've got a whole project list financially based on the vendors, based on the original budget, based on what we've actually spent so far, what we are having in reserve, because we know that a particular contract is going to be 100% spent, and then I show an amount that's the available amount that we know we're not going to spend in a given area. So because of the issues with the grant this year, we're having to really sort of scramble to find where we can pay for some of these items. So that's going to be in a subsequent meeting. But as I had talked about the building, one of the things that we have to have because of the tower is we have to have fiber access in the building up to Belknap Mountain. So once you have fiber access up to Belknap Mountain, you don't have to have the rest of the building be connected to the internet with fiber. But we've been wanting to do this for so long because we're sometimes really hamstrung by the technology of cable modems, and even though we're on a pretty high speed connection, we have a lot of stuff that's going on there. The detectives upload a lot of pictures and data to databases, for other agencies to be looking for pawn shops and things like that, and all the employees that are just doing their regular business there. And then on top of that, our phone system is voice over IP, so it also uses the internet. So so to look at what we're spending now, we would have to spend about $302 more a month at the PD for basically internet access and voice over IP using fiber with consolidated communications. And I'm working on multiple quotes, but this is one particular one. So over and above what we're spending now for just the police department, we'd have to spend about $300 more. By tying in town hall to that, we can actually cut down that expense by about $200. So the idea here is our current phone system here was put in 2009, and it was, I think, Pat, you were on the budget committee. Pat, I think, was a selectman. Oh, yeah, you were, because the people that installed it had some issues installing it. But our phone system died on a Thursday, and on Friday, they had an emergency meeting. We got to buy a phone system. Boom, get the guy in here to install it. And we kind of got what we paid for with them, but we subsequently had other vendors come in and do some work on it. And, we've been able to manage. But at this point, it is about 11 years old, going on 12 years old. And which it works, and we've been able to make do. But we have to have plain old telephone service lines for it, POTS lines. And those are not inexpensive. So we're paying $400-something a month now for town hall, and also an alarm here, and Belknap County line from the PD there. But essentially, if you were to look at what it would take to take main fiber pipe into the PD, and then have kind of a virtual network through Consolidated and a connection here. So then we are all on the same phone system. And by getting rid of our plain old telephone service lines here, and we would still retain 2 POTS lines at the PD and 2 POTS lines here for emergencies. So if the tree took down all the fiber, in the area, we'd still have regular telephone lines if they were still operating. Right, it's all relative. But in any case, that then is only about a difference of $108 a month. And that includes the line that goes up to Belknap Tower. Now, there are things that we would have to do here. We have to recable a building. We have to buy telephones that will work, that would be the same. And we would be all running off of that phone system. The nice thing about that phone system is we have a redundant backup, so that if the primary one goes down, we have the backup system right there to fail over to. And it'll handle up to about 200 extensions. So we've got more than enough capacity to add the town hall. And what I've put on here on your second sheet, this gives you a financial comparison. So if you just take a quick look at this now, and you can look at it more on your own time if you like. But the first sheet includes public works. The second sheet does not. So I'm not so sure there's a need to do that, but if we wanted to have a small line going down there, which would speed the surveillance and also give them an extension. So keep in mind, everyone would be an extension and be able to get everything very easily. So on the top left, where you see in the gray blue color, you see what these are our existing costs in that area, that top third area above the line. So our VoIP lines right now, we have 20 of them. They're costing us $142.50 a month. We have 2 POTS lines that sometimes reach as high as $112. Cable internet costs us $175. Our current costs are $429. Underneath that, you see where we have what would be proposed. So the VoIP lines, 2 POTS lines, the fiber costs, and then the fiber up to Belknap. And then underneath that, there's some one-time costs. And those are for the actual physical installation of the fiber to the building. And there isn't a vendor out there that doesn't charge for these things. And I can get into how I can can account for that. But on the town hall side, in Public Works, we have 10 POTS lines that are costing $400 a month. We spend $55 a month for cable internet here, and then Public Works phone. So in this case, the maximum with tax would be about a $200 difference on the top right. And the things that we would have to do here at the town hall and also at Public Works, install the installation here at the town hall for the fiber, 14 phones fully configured here at town hall, and that includes an additional phone up here for the board area, and then also one spare, and then all the cabling drops that would be required, and then 2 phones at the Public Works with configuration and the installation of the fiber at Public Works. So this is the more expensive version here. So on a monthly basis, it'd be just under $200 more than what we are currently paying. And the net one-time cost would be about $1,600. Now, the way I figure that is, you can see on the bottom right quadrant, there's if you add up all the installation costs, cost of the phones and cabling, it comes up to $10,150. We have the grant that can be used to offset this at $58.47, and then we can the costs at the PD can be charged to the PD owner's contingency, because those are costs required at the police department. So that leaves a net of $1,602. On the flip side of this paper, without Public Works, it's much more affordable. And you can see that while there's a total cost, the PD of $732 of the proposed items, we are offsetting it at the town hall. So there's a net additional cost of what we're paying right now of $108, or with tax $120 roughly. And then taking out the installation for the Public Works, it comes out to a one-time net cost of $527. So I know there's a lot to take in here. Take a look at it in your spare time, if you will. But basically, the cost-benefit analysis is that by itself, fiber is going to be expensive at the PD. We can do it just at the PD, but it'd be about $3,600 more a year than what we're currently paying. We can add town hall fiber, which would really be a nice thing to have here at town hall as well. Put new phones in here, and it would cost us about $120 more a month with tax. So
As opposed to 3,600?
Just for the PD, and that doesn't solve any problem if our phone system dies here, which will probably go on for years. I can buy these phones on eBay, and we've had phones fail, and I'll buy a phone for $25 or sort of thing. Somebody's attachments break.
When do you have to know this in order to get it squared away from the PD?
So for the PD, we would have to make a decision what we want to do there in the late September, October timeframe. And we would have to sign a 3-year contract. These prices are based on 3-year contract and the installation fees that are down below. Now, I've gotten this reduced twice from what it was prior to this, and we may still have opportunities to do that, and I have other vendors I'm talking to, but they are the only ones that have the Belknap line. Anybody else, the closest one is 1,000 feet from the tower, so we would have to pay for the installation of fiber over 1,000 feet from wherever that location is on Belknap Mountain up to that building, and then have equipment put in there. It would be, I think, much more expensive. I'm awaiting a quote. They actually had to send somebody up there to see, what the situation was for this other vendor. So.
And that's for the radio communications between here and Belknap?
Yeah, so what's interesting about this is that it actually, the dispatch communications are going through fiber up to the tower. It's not going via radio to the tower.
Why aren't they using RF?
I don't know, this is the way, I guess, the state of the art, the way it's done. So it's
I
only,
want to check into RF because there's no wires, just we transmit to that there and I mean, that's all microwaves and
yeah,
it's way, ships communicate and airplanes communicate. And
the
everything else.
whole tower and communications section was configured a certain way. Our whole contract is based on these components. I mean, I can ask, but and Chief, would you know off the top of your head?
The fire chief probably said there wasn't.
Yeah, I've worked in the industry for 40 years and everybody goes with RF microwave communications as opposed to fiber because the maintenance is so much lower and it's cheaper.
They're not, then fiber,
Oh, yeah.
microwave?
Because we're line of sight to that tower
Well,
from our tower.
So I had asked the fire chief for help as we get into some of the configuration phase, and he's been very gracious and offered to help in any way he could. He also, he did tell me that in the configuration phase that he had recommended that that we do something a little bit different. But I guess whatever was decided at the PD and whatever went into this original quote, this is what was deemed what we needed, and this is what we contracted for. So,
So the issue is moot.
I think
We have a contract.
we have a contract, and part of the
For to
requirements,
install fiber.
they don't install the fiber, but the fiber is required for the communication of the tower. So,
Is there enough room on that tower to sell space?
our tower, yes. We
Don't
have
care about
control
their
of
tower. I'm just talking about, that'll help defray our costs if
It could.
somebody else wanted to go on.
I think the issue is more that we're more in a valley compared to, say, the 132 or the Caleb Hill, but I believe those are both full. Are they not? Yeah, I'm aware of that. So in any event, that's something to consider. So it's really taking something that would have been costly for us and trying to find a way that it's kind of two birds with one stone and helps us with the town hall.
Tim, which one do you recommend?
I don't think it's necessary to have Public Works on, but it could be done in the future. If ever there were a need to have fiber down there, so what the additional costs are. And within the consolidated contract, and I'm sure all the vendors do this, they have tiers where you can up the tier. So we'd actually have a 50 meg asynchronous pipe going into the PD and then breaking off of that a 20 meg pipe here. A phone call, you can fit about, you can fit about 20 phone calls in about 5 megs of space. And the difference here is if you look at your home cable, your download looks huge. Your upload is kind of small. Asynchronous communications means that you're having that throughput all the time, no matter what. There's nothing getting in the way of anything else. So even though the number sounds small, the speed is just phenomenal. And there's no delay, no handshaking, no nothing. So, and I wouldn't recommend trying to do the town hall on anything other than fiber if we were connected into the PD. I think it would just be a reliability nightmare.
Fiber to each station or fiber to a switch?
No, it'd just be, the fiber would come into the buildings just to a switch. Part of what I would try to arrange here, though, is that we, I talked about updating the wiring here. So if we were doing this, if I can work it out that we could get 2 drops, to each location. So then, we'd really be looking at some fast internal speeds too from the servers, which right now we do have some bottlenecks, but some of which is because we have cabling that goes back to the mid-90s. So.
Right now, cabling is going downhill because all the at-home services, so everybody's trying to draw for that one pipeline.
Yeah.
And with in-home schooling and businesses.
So in any case, that's pretty much all I had for you. So please, give me your thoughts on the budget.
We're gonna make a decision next.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Tim.
much.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the Selectmen's report, and we'll start off with Selectman Constantino.
Yeah, I have two things very quickly. I have the bus protocol. I made the changes that everybody with their input. I did see that there was one error on this. We'll get to it. The 100.4 at the top under mask, I changed that. And then before loading, the first sentence, driver will take the temperature of each passenger before loading with thermometer. We added the thermometer on there. And then have you traveled, in the next page, have you traveled in the prior 14 days outside an area? It should be area, AREA, currently under restriction question mark. That changed from the specific states, because the specific states are changing all the time. And other than that, that was what you asked me to put in. That's it.
I make a motion, we approve the Tilton Senior Center bus COVID-19 protocols.
I'll second that.
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? There's nobody. The motion passes.
So the only other thing I'd like to discuss in we're getting calls for rides from agencies. That we have one, a young man from Sanditon that needs a ride. He's been working in Hannaford's now for the last 25 years. And he only needs a ride at 10 a.m. on a Thursday, and he gets out at 12 p.m. right over the border, immediately over the border in Sanditon. And I said, we're not doing rides from Sanditon or from Northfield at this moment. I'm getting several more rides, requests from the Northfield area, particularly to go to meals when they open and to music on Wednesday night. I would like the permission I have talked with some of the selectmen in Sanditon to get a feel on how they feel about coming up with a memorandum of understanding to somehow alleviate the issue of having Tilton pay for Sanditon or Northfield residents out of Tilton's taxpayers' money, if we can get reimbursed somehow for gas and maintenance, and somehow maybe Tim could help me kind of figure out where that would be. If we progressively got the numbers up, for now they're low. I think there's like half a dozen in Northfield and so far 2 in Sanditon. So I just want permission to make an appointment to speak with the board in person, let them know what the bus is all about, what we do, and how we're going about it, and then see if they're on board or not, and then we can come up with some type of an MOU amongst us. It's a long way off. I realize that, but we gotta start somewhere. I just don't wanna, it's really heartbreaking to say no when you know that you only have half a mile from the border and we can't get more eye.
Anybody have any thoughts on this issue? My own personal thought is that I don't want to spend some taxpayer money. It wasn't sold to the residents as that. If we can get reimbursement, I would certainly be willing to take a look at that, but
Come up with an MOU or something. Donation of some sort when they get on the bus.
something to help defray the cost.
To cover-
I mean, the bus is there to help
Tilton.
people who need it
Right.
in the town of Tilton. If we can, like you say, a mile over the border or whatever, drop off at Hannaford's, which is in Franklin. If we can get some money to help defray that cost, make us whole on some level, then I wouldn't be against it.
Yeah.
John?
I'd be really hesitant in doing it if in any way we would inconvenience anybody from the town of Tilton by
Right.
saying, we can't pick you up because the bus is full and we have
Right.
two people from another town.
And that absolutely
be
is a
the-
priority. Tilton would absolutely positively be number one on the list. Right now, without COVID, there is a certain percentage of people that come from Samerton and always has since day one, that the senior center has been open in Samerton and Norfolk. Now the Belmont Senior Center has died, shut down. There's been two that have come over from Belmont, two residents that drive, obviously. But since its inception, we've had a fair amount of folks from Samerton. So I really want to approach the board over there and see what we can do and I'm not going to go over and pick up every one of them, and that's not my intention. But there are a few that are disabled and that need and not get out, one or two that really need that help. And I don't want to be able to say no to them if in fact we can cover the expenses of the bus and they're not going to hinder in priority to Tilton. That, I think it would be a win. It's still, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It won't even happen next month. It's a long way off. But, yeah.
We provide the senior center, which takes that piece of property off of the taxes to provide for people in our town and all of our seniors. And we make a lot of arrangements, along with volunteers. I think the other towns need to also step up on that way. They want to help support our senior center if their residents are using it, or just kind of let us take care of it all. It's horrible, but in this area, we need like a tri-town type thing or a community camp.
Right.
And CAP's getting defunded.
Samerton
We can't
has
take
reached-
over for it.
Samerton, over the last year and a half, there is a very large group in Samerton that want to do things for their seniors. They're realizing that there's a very high population of seniors, and they have realized that there's nothing there for seniors, so they're reaching out. They've reached out to me many times. They've reached out to CAP. They've reached out to Lakes Region LRCS. And so they're looking into finding ways to help their seniors in their town. So it's just something for us to think about.
Keep that on their mind
Yeah.
too, that
Yeah.
they need to.
They're looking in it. I haven't heard from them, but they are. So I have a consensus to go ahead and
I would
see
say
what we
yes.
come up with.
Start a conversation anyway
Yeah.
and see where it goes.
Right, that's it for me.
Okay, Peter.
I have one thing I'd like put into the minutes from Parks Commission, At their meeting on June 8th, the Parks Commissioners voted to allow their flagpole at the 132 ball field to be moved out of the way of the police building construction project. At their meeting on August 10th, the Commissioners voted to have the flagpole relocated to a mutually agreed upon location that will serve both the sports field and the police station.
Nice, very nice.
So part of it will be, as I don't know if you can have it as close to the street as, part of it's with the field. And do we have a full set of plans that the Parks Commission could have so we can look at trying to lay out fields and all? I've never seen anything from Gary Goodrow. We had half-scale plans that you can't read the figures off of.
Right, we don't really, not
For
that.
the 190,000 or whatever we paid, I would have thought I could have a set of plans that I could read and,
One of those ones that go, you know.
yeah, 24 by 36. the full-
Well,
Yes.
Seems like we should be able to get copies.
You don't need the whole thing, you just need.
Well, I need the plan, just the page that
The
shows
site.
the original, what's going to be left for parks.
We do have this.
but it doesn't show a plan for the field.
No,
Well, not a plan, but give me demarcation of how many feet I've got to play with.
Got it.
And then we go with how we want to.
That does have that. Yeah.
It's just on the plans I saw, they were either this or the half scale and you couldn't read them.
I think I've got my sets printed out.
That's all I have, Joe.
I got a question though, Peter.
Yeah.
You said a mutually agreed upon site for the flagpole. Mutually agreed upon by whom?
The,
Town and the Parks Commission?
yeah, or the police committee, whoever you have
We had
charged
gone to
with it, so.
Which would be the selectmen.
Selectmen. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
We had gone to them, Joe, and asked if we could move it because
Mhm.
it was
In the way of the construction.
It was not, sort of kind of not in the way of the construction. We took it down and then in hopes to use that as one of the flagpoles. It's going to be two flagpoles, but we're going to use one of them in the front. And then I think that was one we're going to do the bricks around. And then we had to ask permission from the parks to do that. And then we said a mutually agreed upon place in the front, which wasn't designated on the plans with the exact place where it was, but there's an idea Gary had drawn with the flag was on one of the pictures.
Alrighty, thank you very much. Peter, you got
That was
more?
it.
No? My only thing this week is the concerts on the island. Again, we had a lovely time last week. There were 183 people that came onto the island, which is not, that includes the band and me and Allison, Titus. I mean, it's not just people, but there was 183 of us on the island that came across the bridge. Masks were being worn. I did a casual walk around. They're really doing a good job, and I'm certainly hopeful that that continues. Still have problems with parking in front of the handicap porta potty. If you're out there, whoever parks in front of the handicap porta potty, don't. How can somebody in a wheelchair get in the door? The guy last week did leave room because I saw this one guy that comes every week in a wheelchair go in there, but it makes it tight. You don't park in front of the handicap spot, please. And come on down. The weather's supposed to be good this week. Eric?
I'm going to defer my time to Mr. Scanlon today.
Okay, John Scanlon, you're up.
I don't know much.
Okay then, is there any other business to come before the Board of Selectmen tonight? Is there anybody on the line out there? There is nobody on the line. In that case, if there's no other business, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:56 p.m. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by waving bye-bye.
Aye.
Aye.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, whatever I just said, ignore that.
We have to reconvene the meeting.
We have to reconvene the meeting at 7:56 and a half. This will get you, Gail. I'd like to make a motion to accept the furniture donation to the town of Tilton valued at $24,525 to help furnish our new police department. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion in a second. Is there any discussion?
Does that include Tim's wearing?
Yes.
Yes. No, go ahead, call the question.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, so let's go again. The time being 7:57, I make a motion to adjourn the
For
meeting.
real? For real, right?
For real, this is it.
Second.
If there's no other discussion, everybody say aye.
Aye.
Aye.